Hello, I'm Katinka Blackford Newman, founder of the not-for-profit Antidepressant Risks, and welcome to our Spotlight series where we feature interviews with some of the organisations and experts mentioned on our website. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Marcus Orlando from Unscripted Minds, a non-profit pushing against the overprescription of psychiatric drugs to young people and challenging the idea that feeling low or anxious automatically means that there's something wrong with your brain. Marcus, I'm delighted to welcome you. First of all, I'd just love to hear what brought you to this work.
First of all, thank you for having me on, Katinka. Glad to speak with you. Really, what brought me to this work is not actually personal experience. I've never been diagnosed with anxiety or depression, and I've never been on antidepressants myself. However, I've had lots of family members and friends who are my own age who have been put on these drugs. And I wasn't really aware of this problem until a few years ago, because when I was in high school, I went through some what I would call pretty typical mental health struggles where, I was 15 and 16 going through some changes. I was a teen. I was, developing into an adult. So of course I was anxious about certain things. I didn't really like going to school. There were some pretty typical, catches in the road, but I was never pushed onto a drug. I talked to my parents. They said, hey, let's try to figure out why you're feeling this way. I eventually did go to a doctor, but the doctor never mentioned antidepressants at all. He said, this is a very normal reaction, especially as a 15-year-old. Let's maybe have you talk to a therapist. So I ended up talking to a therapist for a few years, and she was really helpful. She helped me understand that my emotions were guides. I remember really, really strongly, she said one time to me, Marcus, it's okay. You're allowed to feel this way. You're allowed to feel sad. You're allowed to feel anxious. And up until that point, I hadn't really thought about it that way, but it made so much sense. I mean, we're human. We experience emotions, low emotions, high emotions, everywhere in between. And it's okay to feel the low ones because we need them. That's what makes us human. So my therapy was really helpful. It was focused on improving my life, using those negative emotions as guides for what could be improved. And it's not an overnight fix, but I ended up, coming through those struggles well. And I'm very happy that I went through them because they taught me a lot of things about who I am as a person and how to view emotions in general. Now, on the converse side, lots of my peers have not experienced that positive mental health treatment. They go to their parents at 15 or 16, and their parents send them to the doctor. The doctor says, oh, you have depression. Here's a med for it. Come back in 6 months. Now, obviously, that isn't the sum total of all mental health treatment, but it's increasingly the case for a lot of people, especially in my generation. And it's really damaging when you're given a drug at a young age you're told that it's fixing something inherently wrong with you, because one, that's just scientifically untrue, but two, it creates this self-fulfilling prophecy in a young person's mind that, oh my God, there's something wrong with me. This drug is the only cure. And it really strips all of their agency away. So to answer your question, I saw the adverse effects that other people went through, both in the therapy system and in the psychiatric system, where they were put on drugs from a very young age. A lot of them still remain on them to this day. And I just find it sad and it's something that attacks our very humanity, putting young people on drugs that they know nothing about. They don't understand how these drugs will impact them in the future. And it's just taking away agency by relegating all treatment to a medicine.
So what makes you so passionate about it?
I really think it's that my generation is not being told how to view emotions. It's such a big problem that nobody talks about. You see videos online of people saying, oh, I love my antidepressant. There's influencers getting paid by pharmaceutical companies to promote the medication online. And I just think it's almost, I feel like I'm starting a business kind of, but it's just, instead of selling a product, I'm promoting an idea. And I really think that my generation's mental health is slipping away, and it's not for the reasons that people think. I think putting people on antidepressants at young ages is contributing to the decline in mental health. And I'm just passionate about helping out my generation get better and not get better in the way that, the mental health system pushes, which is, oh, take this drug, you'll be on it for 10 years, 20 years, maybe even the rest of your life, and that'll balance you out. No, I want people to experience their full range of emotions, understand what it means to be human, and understand that we as individuals have the control in our own hands to take control of our own lives and do something about mental health challenges. So that's why I'm really passionate about it, because I feel like it's a really massive problem that's especially impacting my generation. It's impacting my friends, it's impacting my family members, and it'll impact my kids' generation. It's just a massive problem that goes untalked about.
So, Marcus, tell me, what exactly does Unscripted Minds do?
Yeah, so we are a very new organization. I'm working with Dr. Marisa Witt Doerring. The goal of Unscripted is to provide teens and their families informed consent about psychiatric medications so that they can make informed choices about their own mental health. We started in November of 2025. We've been publishing blogs on our website, having some different writers come on, talk about their experience as a patient or as a clinician. And we also have lots of information on our website, data, studies to back it up, and also some of the side effects and withdrawal effects of antidepressants. And we are pushing right now to work with other large nonprofits. So we're not a nonprofit quite yet, but we're in the process of getting fiscal sponsorship from a larger nonprofit. And the goal is to connect with those larger nonprofits that do programming with children and then add on our message. We've developed lots of educational resources to give to teens and their parents. So we would kind of glom onto a larger nonprofit who would fiscally sponsor us, and we would add our program to theirs. Therefore, families and teenagers across the country and hopefully the world will get access to our information, because it's really something that not many kids know in school. I mean, I was never told about this when I was going through the school system. So we're trying to target the very front end of this problem by getting into schools, getting into youth organizations, and really interacting with parents, telling them that, hey, there are a lot of risks that come with antidepressants. There's lots of trade-offs. You might not even know about withdrawal symptoms. Here's what you can do. Your son or daughter is struggling mentally. Here's something that you can do, an alternative. You don't have to go the drug route. I mean, we're not trying to make decisions for people, but we're trying to give them the full information that I feel is really missing, especially for my own generation. And twofold, adding on top of that, I really want to help change the culture. I mentioned this a few times. I want the culture to I don't want the culture to be, I have a problem, it's inherent, I must diagnose myself with depression and medicate myself because of it. I want the culture to be, okay, I'm feeling sad, let's analyze why. First, let's be okay with that, because that's an aspect of being human. And second, let's analyze why, and let's work towards, solving it, identifying what areas of life might need extra attention. We have been in contact with a tutoring firm who helps some at-risk youth and other youth that, might need extra help in school. And they're very interested in us giving them some materials on stimulants as well as antidepressants. So we'll be working with them to help out. They deal with lots of families and lots of kids that are very, very young. And they mentioned that a few of their kids have been there. They deal with, I think, ages 5 to 15, something like that. Lots of their kids have been put on antidepressants and on stimulants, which to me is shocking. I mean, somebody who's 8 years old is getting on a psychiatric drug. I mean, that to me is insane. But they've asked us to help out with materials that we can then give that they can then pass on to their families and the kids that they work with. So working with Marisa Witt Doerring is very helpful, given that she is a doctor. She helps run Taper Clinic, which helps get people off of psychiatric meds. So we have that medical expertise as well. So I've been posting a lot on LinkedIn. Well, I've gotten lots and lots of messages on LinkedIn, specifically from people my own age who have talked about how, hey, I've never really thought about it this way, or I've been on a drug for many, many years and I've been thinking about getting off. This has helped me to, take that next step. So, and it's coming from people that, it's LinkedIn. So a lot of these people are college connections. A lot of these people I've like maybe spoken to once or twice in my life. And I get messages like, hey, really happy that you're talking about this. This is something I've been thinking about forever. Or, hey, my brother, sister has been on this drug forever. My family's been trying to get them off of it. It has been very rewarding seeing people that, I kind of know, not really, talking about how they've been thinking about this a lot, or that my writing and the work that Unscripted is doing has been helpful in really reassessing how they view those negative emotions and their relationship to psychiatric medication.
There is the question of, well, if they do sit up and listen and they've been on the drugs for some time, where are you pointing them to get off the drugs? Because it's not like you can just quit, can you?
Right. Yes, that's a great question. And I think that Marisa is like, since I work with Marisa, it's very helpful given that she is an expert on tapering. I like to point them to Taper Clinic because Dr. Yosef and Marisa have some information about how to safely taper. And Dr. Yosef has his YouTube channel, which is free, of course. And they also provide lots of free resources. So yes, and always tell people, don't just cold turkey your medicine. That's a terrible, terrible idea. And I make sure that people have, that you need to have somebody working with you to get off. It needs to be slow and it needs to be, safe with lots of guardrails. So yeah, it's not like I'm telling people, oh yeah, just cold turkey your medication, get off of it tomorrow and you'll feel better. No, it's a long process and people need to know that. And that also goes into Unscripted's mission on the front end, where I think a lot of people would not sign up for these drugs if they knew how severe the withdrawal was. And that is not in the mainstream at all. I mean, you when you hear about withdrawal symptoms, you think like, oh, it's just a headache, or you'll feel a little sick for a few days or a week or two. I mean, that's the case. There's people that go through very, very, very severe withdrawal stories. So I also like to point people to, YouTube videos of people going through withdrawal, or reading Laura Delano's story. I mean, that's very powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. The resources are free on their website, and Dr. Yosef's YouTube channel, of course, is free. So yes, I would point people towards that. If you were struggling with tapering or needed some help getting off medication, definitely start there.
Marcus, let me ask you, if you were sitting here 3 years from now and Unscripted Minds had achieved what you could most hope for, what would be different in how we talk about and understand or respond to mental health struggles?
That is something I think about all the time. Number one, it is definitely how people understand negative emotions. If I can change anything in this world, it is letting people know, especially people my own age and younger, that when they go through struggles, it is okay. It's actually a sign of being human. And if you use them properly, they can go from the darkest times to the brightest times. They can be your biggest blessing. So I really want my generation to understand and learn how to channel negativity into positivity. Understand that the solution to feeling anxious, feeling sad as a kid is not to put yourself on a drug for 10 years. The solution is to identify why you're feeling that way and use it for positive. So if I could change anything, and if we have achieved our mission in 3 years, it's a never-ending battle, but I would want people to start talking about emotions in this way instead of, oh, let's diagnose and medicate it. No, let's understand it and learn from it.
Brilliant. Well, that would be an amazing achievement if you did manage to achieve that. Thank you, Marcus, for such an important conversation. So tell me, how can people find you?
People can go to unscriptedminds.org, sign up for our newsletter. And if people want to find me personally, I'm on LinkedIn, Marcus Orlando. That's where I do some posting. And also we have an Instagram account. It's un.scriptedminds.
If you'd like to stay connected with our work, do sign up for our monthly newsletter via the Antidepressant Risks website. It's where we share new interviews, lived experience stories, research updates, and coming events. We also host a monthly peer support group for people tapering or withdrawing. We hold our annual Stolen Lives event and picnic each year on the 29th of July, and we curate what has become the world's largest virtual library of resources on antidepressant risks. If this conversation resonated, please share it and help us continue strengthening informed consent and safer conversations around mental health and medication.